back to our series of interviews with you as fantastic members around the world. I am delighted, as I always am, to be talking with Fiona Mougenot of Expat Partners. We've spoken several times during this, and actually I think the last time we spoke, you very kindly jumped into a very awkward question on immigration and Brexit on the Brexit session. And also, if you haven't watched it, Fiona took part in our Immigration Symposium Part 1 on Brexit the week before last. It's a really great session and it got some fantastic comments on YouTube, so take a look. Fiona, how are you? How's the team? How are you all doing?
I'm very well. My team is well, thank goodness, which is the most important thing. What about you, Dominic?
Oh, I'm okay, thank you. I'm slightly bored. We'll get into that. We'll get into that shortly.
Well, we're not bored because we're very busy.
Good. I'm very pleased to hear it.
Well, I think that we've had the two challenges, which have been COVID. Let's not talk about too much about that, except that we are now with border controls, which does add on supplementary complications. And now Brexit in full swing. And it's a challenge, but it's a nice challenge. You know, it's something different. So yes, it's very, very interesting, I think. Very interesting.
Chinese curse, interesting times. You mentioned border controls there. Just for anybody who's watching who doesn't know, you're based in Paris.
Yes.
What is the situation right now?
So for France, the borders are closed. EU nationals may come in for compelling reasons.
Wow, okay, what does that mean?
Well, you've got to have a real reason to be traveling into the country. And you've got to have PCR testing and all that sort of stuff, which is normal. You don't have to go into confinement though. But non-EU nationals, hello, you're in England, you want to come in and visit? Not only compelling reasons, you have to say that you will also self-attest that you will go into confinement for 7 days, which for a lot of countries seems perfectly normal. But for us, we haven't had it yet. So first of all, you have to sign a whole lot of documents and self-attestations. And if you're traveling for business, of course, you have to have documents from your employer as well, documents probably from the host company in France to really show why you're coming in. And if you're lucky to get in, because it's actually, I think it's more the airlines than anybody else, because the people, everybody, we're in a sort of a group sharing about this now with other French immigration firms, and it doesn't appear that there's too much of a control when you actually arrive in France. I think it's before that it happens, and it's really to dissuade people. So today we heard from the French embassy in Iran that they would not be issuing any visas to what we call the talent passport family category. So they can't have any visas right now. That's a sort of restriction to really try to cut down, because there's no urgent reason for them to come here.
Sure.
As such. So yes, it just adds on a little bit of flavour.
It certainly does. And I mean, from that point of view, I spoke with Jeremy the a couple of weeks ago, and he said they were fully expecting at that time for France to go into some level of lockdown, but that hasn't happened, has it?
Hasn't happened yet. We all sort of sit on the edge of our chairs, thinking that it's going to happen tomorrow, in the next week and everything. I think they're really trying to do everything they can so that it doesn't happen, of course, because the economy would be hit even more as such. So that, yes, they're trying, and I think that people are trying to be good as well. Right now, there's a whole issue, well, not an issue, there's the whole thought about it's school half term. So, but this time it's not the whole country at the same time. It's cut up into zones in France. So will that have an effect? You can go up to the mountains, but you can't ski as such. Or if you're skiing, you're cross-country skiing, or you're doing rackets or something like that, but you're not doing the usual skiing. So will that have any effect on anybody? I don't know, but that's for France. Whereas, I mean, look in India. In India, it's incredible. It's fantastic how they're getting through it.
We were just saying before we started recording, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yes.
Just extraordinary. Do you want to outline that? Because again, you have an operation in India. But,
well, what I think is fascinating is to see that India seems to have got into an autoimmune system themselves. And the virus is not spreading right now from the figures they're seeing. And basically, yes, my team in the office, they wear masks.
Okay.
But they all go out. They go out to restaurants. There are parties. Life is back to normal, one could practically say. I think that what I do know is that there are a lot of differences between regions and traveling between the different states is controlled. You have to have certain things for different states, which I don't have the details, but somebody like Rohit would be able to tell you, and certainly my office would as well, for people who'd be interested. But yes, and then China, okay, traveling into China is extremely complicated or practically limited.
Yeah.
But in China, I mean, yes, everybody had heard that they were meant to try not to travel over the Chinese New Year, which is this week.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a lot of traveling happening.
I mean, just seeing the images of Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, you know, back to normal, people in restaurants.
Oh, back to normal,
Yeah.
utterly back to normal.
Yeah.
But immediately there is something that happens. Of course, they restrict the whole area and everybody's controlled, tested and everything, which, yes, we don't do. And I mean, look how wonderful it is in Italy. Museums are open, bars and restaurants are opening. I think it's not over the whole of Italy, but over certain regions. Immediately they go into a green phase. And I think that's, you know, we've got light at the end of the tunnel at last, but have we changed or are we changing?
It's a very, very interesting question. I mean, from the point of view of where I'm sitting right now in the UK, it's, you know, when I said at the beginning, how I'm bored, I don't mean I'm bored, again, like you, plenty to do, but we've been in lockdown since the end of October and there's no horizon for...
Yes, there's no Euro conference in 3 months' time.
No Euro conference until again, you know, and although the vaccine rollout here has been, as you know, very successful,
very successful,
touch wood, it's still, you know, still a long way away. So what's happening in France in terms of vaccine control and exit strategies?
So, vaccine right now, the rollout has started, as everybody knows, but it's very sporadic and it is basically for people above a certain age, and I think it's even above 70 or 75. And for those in the hospitals, it was above the age of 50, although there have been people who work, you know, whether they're nurses or whatever, who've been lucky to be vaccinated because you've got 6 doses in the bottles. So they've been able to benefit from it. And a matter of fact, to such an extent that I heard the other day that, you know, sometimes they're really looking for people.
Yes.
So I said, you know, well, if they're looking for anybody, I can go, kind of thing. Yes. But I think that generally people are getting a little bit bored. Because it's not rolled out officially. You know, they're not saying, right, in 2 months' time, this age group. I mean, yes, President Macron has said that everybody who is an adult will be vaccinated by the end of the summer. Today, my opinion, I'm thinking, how is he going to do this by the end of the summer? But yes, maybe, you know, they're going to roll it out and the delivery is going to be good. I think it's normal. They've never been through this, but it doesn't appear, not that we've got the full story, as organised as maybe in the UK, but we don't have the whole story. So I don't want to criticise as such.
For sure. And to be honest with you, nor do we. I mean, I think that is the case.
Yes.
It's like the figures that are coming from government look very positive, and the same in the US actually. But yeah, it's I mean, what that raises, and I mean, we were talking about that in the immigration session, is as countries stagger back in different time sets, as it were, to, you know, travel and borders being open.
Will there be passports?
Will there be passports? What's your opinion? I mean,
I have a theory that there will be passports.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I know that there's big discussions about this being discriminating, and do people want to be tracked? But excuse me, if you're going to go to Africa, you're going to have yellow fever. And you're not going to think about it.
No.
So I'm a little bit lost about why people say, oh, I don't want to have I mean, in the past, we all used to have vaccination passports. I think I probably even got mine still. And I wouldn't think twice about it. And I think that if it allows people to travel and it allows countries to actually open up and have visitors and tourism and life coming back, well, then yes, we should. After that, it could be discriminating. but it's difficult to set the line on that. You know, is it better to say, no, we don't want to discriminate, so we won't have passports, but we're going to keep the borders totally closed until we know that 80% of the population in the world has been vaccinated? Well, that might take a couple of years. So I think that passports are going to be inevitable, is my opinion.
I think you're absolutely right, and I agree with you from the point of view that, I mean, just look at this. It's easy to be sitting here in the 4th month of the 3rd lockdown, or actually the 3rd month, as it were. And, you know, life has kind of gone on in this weird half-life, but massive chunks of the economies of massive countries, France, Italy, Spain, the UK, America, are dependent on tourism. The hotels are all closed. The car rental companies are closed. The restaurants are all closed. The museums are all closed. This is vital stuff. You know, it's easy to forget that, you know, this is what powers our economies. So yeah, tourism has got to come back. And government, I feel that policy is going to shift massively on things like this. And I think individuals ourselves, we will be thinking differently. I mean, as you said about tracking, it doesn't matter whether I've got a vaccine passport or an ordinary passport. The person looking at my passport when I enter a country can see everywhere I've been.
Exactly. It's a little bit like the discussion, which I know I'm going to say something I'm really going to raise a lot of eyebrows here. It's a little bit like the whole discussion around WhatsApp, and do you stay on WhatsApp because now your data is going to be fed into Facebook? But excuse me, if you've got a Gmail account, it's all out there. So either you say, I'm not on LinkedIn, I'm not on any form of social media, and I don't have a Gmail account. Fine, but I mean, one day these people like Signal and Telegram and everything, they're going to be bought out anyway. So
yeah, exactly. It's all.
And I have nothing to hide. I really don't mind. I mean, if they really want to look into my medical history, have fun, enjoy it.
I know, I agree. I think it is very interesting what you say about this. And you know, Gordon Kerr and I were having a conversation. We're going to be doing a session on compliance. Our notions of privacy have been moving and moving and moving. We had GDPR come in, bring everything back. I think now things are going to change in the opposite direction. I think they kind of have to for a while.
Yeah, I think so. There was I don't know if you heard about this. There was an interesting fact that in France, an employer cannot ask a British national if they have registered on the platform under the withdrawal agreement, because if you ask the question during a hiring process, you could actually it could conclude that you might be discriminating.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, these things, I think they're quite fast moving and fluid situations. I remember when, sorry, it's a silly anecdote, but when automated photographic speed cameras were first introduced into Scotland, somebody very cleverly took a privacy action saying, you can't trace where I am on a road. That's completely against privacy rules, you know. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It is, but GDPR I think that GDPR is going to change. Mm-hmm. I think that we were all just getting the whole idea of what this was about and getting rather good at it. And now it's going to move, but it'll still be there. It'll just be different.
No, you're right. Yeah. You're quite right. And so if you were to sum up the national mood at the moment in France, how are people feeling?
I think they're bored. I think they're fed up. Yeah. They are seriously, they're fed up because there's nothing that's very clear.
Okay.
And that I think that if tomorrow they were told, you're going to go into lockdown, it's going to be for 6 weeks, but when you come out, okay, we'll do 4 weeks after that, gradually opening up, and then you're going to be fine. You can all go on holiday this summer, etc. But right now, I mean, the price of property in Paris has started to go down.
Has it really?
I mean, I haven't looked at figures, but that's what I'm being told. Mm-hmm. So property market is going down in Paris, and people are looking to rent or to buy outside in small towns. Everybody's beginning to think, well, actually, my boss has told me that I'm never going to come back into the office. So rather than living in a cramped flat with 3 children, I better go and buy a house in the country where everybody can spread their wings, and it's going to be easier.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a really big phenomenon of the next couple of years. And I think that raises so many questions. We've got a whole other conversation about that, you and I.
Yes.
I'm looking
Yes.
forward to it. But it's interesting from the point of view that, where I live here, about 2 hours north of London, was traditionally the very, very last of the areas to ever be considered the commuter belt. Suffolk,
Yes. Yes.
Surrey, all those areas, very much commuter belt, Berkshire, Oxfordshire, Properties up here would take 2 years to sell. There isn't a single property on the market in this.
I'm not surprised.
They've all sold.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I have one of my sons who's single. But I'm not saying that for that reason. And I said, well, no, I don't think I'm going to buy a flat in Paris. I think I'm going to buy a house an hour away. And I'm thinking, but my God. And he said, no, I said, I think I'd like to have a house with a garden. That people are suddenly feeling they should have green and some freedom and everything like that, and that they get worried about, could this happen again?
Will this?
And if it does happen again,
what do we do?
we really don't want to go through it.
No,
but I think I would like to say that I'm very happy to have lived this sort of experience, because it's the first time that we've had something difficult, really difficult,
really
worldwide, as such, and it's been very challenging. But I think that we need to be challenged in our lives.
Very interesting point. I agree. I mean, much as yes, I agree with you. I'm resentful to be challenged this month, but you're right. You're right. There's been this amazing chap who died last week, Major Tom, who raised 30 million for the NHS. And there's been so much in the press about the war generations, and how they experience life in such a different way. And in a way, you're right. This is our kind of.
But it was a completely different. I mean, my mother was a war generation.
Same.
And I was raised like that, and I was raised that tin foil you washed.
Yes.
Plastic bags you washed.
Yeah.
She used to iron wrapping paper.
Use it. Absolutely.
And she used to use envelopes again.
I know, extraordinary.
And yes, but we're coming back to that through ecology. We're now coming back to that.
Different
so it's come around again. And now there are more and more people who, yes, they don't want to consume. It's not a question about having money. They don't want to consume like that any longer.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's and I think that is also going to affect, in a different manner, of course, but I think it will affect the global mobility now. I think that it's moving in a different direction, where people want quality moves. They want to know, but why am I being sent there by the company? What is my role to be there, and to have a real experience of it as well. And then now a lot of people have suddenly also think about moving for themselves or their family. But, well, why don't I have a year in Germany, or why don't I go and live for a year in Patagonia or wherever, which would be very nice. So yes, I think that there's a lot more, not challenges, but that things are going to change.
Yeah, opportunities change.
Opportunities,
change,
a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities, and I don't know if you found it with other Euro members. What I find very interesting is that I think we've become very close to our clients and to our potential clients as well. We now speak and interact in a very different manner. As such, we get to know them very, very well. Whereas before it was very much, okay, that's what you want. You've got 50 case files. Okay, fine, I'll send you. No, that's finished. No.
Less transactional and more personal.
More personal, like the Chinese. Have a meal first, get to know you, and then perhaps we'll do business.
Yeah. Trust before business.
Exactly.
Very, very cultural. We were talking about all that before.
Yes.
Fiona, it's always a joy to catch up with you. Thank you for your positivity and your insight.
Well, thank you, Dominic.
Let's catch up again, let's say sort of late spring, early summer, and see where we are. And let's hope it's, somewhere different.
It will. It'll be different. It'll be different. The spring will be there for a start.
Well, that's true. It's snowing here at the moment.
Yes, and January, February are always months which are a little bit difficult.
Very true.
As such.
True. Listen, thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. You take very good care, and we'll catch up soon.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona.
Bye-bye.